Hey guys, MBSC1 again. I had a request from a viewer to make a metal deck list, so this is my current metal deck list. Alright, so for Pokemon we have a pretty all-over-the-place line. One Seismitoad. Seismitoad is just good in general. It's a water type, so you can attack with it as a water type attacker, and also lock items. Good against things like Landorus, and just anything that relies on items heavily. Seismitoad can help you with that. It also is just good for stalling early game. It's just good in certain situations. A lot of these attackers are just good at different times, and like with all the different attackers, you basically have something to deal with every deck, basically. So Toad is just good against random stuff like that. Cobalion is really good against other Seismitoad decks, like Toad Garb and Seismitoad Manectric, so you can get energy discarded like that. Also good for Steel Bullet sometimes, if you need to knock out Safeguarder, but usually you just use it for Righteous Edge. But yeah, since Seismitoad did just win Nationals, I think Cobalion's really strong. I even thought about going up to 2 in this deck, but I think 1's probably enough. 1 Aegislash just to stop all those special energy attackers like Raichu, things like that. Aegislash is really good at being a wall against those type of decks. Also stops Rayquaza for me. I will do as much damage as quickly because they can't use their double colorless. Dialga, the tech Chrono Wind is just super strong, being able to make it so that EX Pokemon can't attack on the next turn is super strong under the right conditions. Also, Full Metal Impact with a Muscle Band can one-shot a lot of Pokemon EX, so Dialga is also a very strong attacker. Heatran is actually kind of the main focus of the attackers here. The only attacker that actually I run 2 of is just because it's a non-EX. It's a non-EX that does 2 shots most EXs, and most EXs can't one-shot it. So just that trade-off is really strong. So 2 is warranted for that reason. 1 Shaman just because you need it so that you can set up early game. Also, if you don't have a supporter in your hand, you can Ultra Ball for Shaman and set up that way. So very strong for sure. Mewtwo is the other attacker. The last attacker, I guess, it's because, well, Keldeo kinda is too, but it's just good because you can hit anything that's weak to Psychic for weakness. Also good because you can just load a lot of energy on it and do a lot of damage. You can do that with Aegislash too, but because Mewtwo does 20 damage times the number of attached and the defending, you can end up doing more damage than Mewtwo sometimes. Also, it's not weak to fire, and a lot of these attackers are weak to fire, so it's nice to have something that isn't. So it's good for those reasons. Also, Keldeo, don't really use it as an attacker, but the ability is super strong, obviously, so you can rush and retreat, get those Metal Links, very good. 4-3 Bronzong line, because the fourth Bronzong isn't super necessary. I find I have to discard a lot of the times with Juniper or something like that, so I think 3 is enough. You have a Sacred Ash if you have to discard one of them or something like that, and 4 Bronzong or Bronzor is important because early game you need to get as many down of those as you can. So that's it for the Pokemon line. Stadium's very simple. Just 3 Steel Shelter. I forgot I was 3. The reason I run 3 instead of just 2, a lot of decks only like to run 2, is just because Seismitoad is one of the deck's harder matchups if it's Seismitoad Garbodor. So if you can win the Stadium War with Steel Shelter, that's going to help your matchup a lot. Also, just because Stadium Wars are so prevalent right now, it's nice to be able to have the edge and win that Stadium War. Also, just if you can lock this active and win the Stadium War against a deck that's running Hypnotoxic Laser or something like that, it's incredibly strong. I find that Toad decks can really struggle if you can lock them out of using their lasers. For Professor Juniper or Sycamore, whatever you want. Just good for setting up. Super strong, gets those metal in the discard. Very good supporter. Obvious 4 of 4N. Also good for setting up. Just a strong card in general. You run 4 in pretty much every deck. Well, not so much anymore, actually. 2 Chorus. This is good because you run a bunch of basics, so you can Chorus for large amounts. Just a really solid draw supporter past like turn 1 or 2. And then there is 1 AZ. This is very helpful. I find that in a lot of matchups, you could be trading, and then your opponent might end up like winning the exchange. In other words, like you'll be hitting each other back and forth, and basically if they're not one-shotting, then you can AZ and make it so that you're now ahead in that exchange, if that makes sense. So AZ is really good for that. Then there are 2 Lysander just to bring up whatever you want and knock it out. 2 seems to be enough. I like 3 actually, but 2 I think has been alright. And then 3 Verse Seeker to grab any of those supporters I just showed you. Very versatile, very good. You don't really need 4 though. Well, I mean, 4 is nice, but you can't use it on your first turn or until after you've played a supporter anyway. And plus, it's not very good against Toad, and I really want to beat Toad with this deck, so I thought the 4th should be cut. For the items, we have 1 letter, 3 Muscle Band, 4 Floatstone, 3 Floatstone, 4 Ultra Ball, 1 Sacred Ash, and 1 Battle Compressor. Profess those letters just to get energy so you can discard them more quickly, or just search them out so you can attach. 3 Muscle Band is just good with pretty much all the attackers. Honestly, 4 wouldn't be too weird, actually. If you can fit a 4th Muscle Band, that would be kind of nice. 3 Floatstone just for Keldeo so you can rush and retreat with that Metal Links. It can be really helpful. You need those switching cards. Also, 4 makes it easier. 3 makes it easier so that on your first turn you can get that Floatstone down on Keldeo, so you can use Rush and Retreat against item lock decks like Seismitoad. 4 Ultra Ball just to get any of your attackers. You have a bunch of different attackers, so 4 Ultra Ball is definitely needed. A Repeat Ball would definitely be warranted in this deck if you think you have room for it as well. 1 Sacred Ash to get back any of those attackers or the Bronzong line, and 1 Battle Compressor to get energy in the discard pile and the AZ in the discard pile, as well as maybe a Lysander if you want, because then it gives you the option to Verse Seeker for Lysander more quickly. So that's it for items. And then to finish it off, we have pretty simple energy line, just 4 Double Colorless and 8 Metal. You can get away with 7 Metal, but I wanted to go with 8 just because Seismitoad, again, that was one of the main things I wanted to try and have a better matchup against than most Metal decks. So yeah, we have the 8 Metal mostly just for Seismitoad. I think otherwise I probably would just run 7. And then 4 Double Colorless. Obviously you have a bunch of attackers that use Double Colorless energy, so it's very strong in this deck. That list actually has no A-specs, so cut one of those steel shelters for a computer search. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I have a Flareon deck list that I'm going to upload in a day or 2, so stay tuned for that if you want to see it. And I guess that's it. So thanks for watching. Like the video if you like the video, comment if you want to tell me something, and subscribe for more.